Watch and see what it takes to restore this completely botched custom putter.
So there's a big gap, a big rocking face where this whole face has been warped. Since this is a vintage collector's piece, it's worth salvaging. This is an old carbon steel, one of the oil quench models from probably the mid 90s. This one is in for some salvage work. So this has been customized and modified by somebody else. Very poor customization. You can see on this how much gouging they've taken out. They did a really good transition with the first step, but this outer bumper, it's all over the place. Big gap through that, and also the face side of this rocking face where this whole face has been warped and pulled out of spec. I already have taken the time to clean and weld in the text on the neck of this. And so I kind of have a feel for the cleanliness of this steel, and it is very internally dirty. And so this is a challenge. I can see why the first modifier had troubles with this. Luckily, beforehand, I know exactly what I'm in for. This is full of oil and different pitted corrosion spots. Getting it clean enough to take a weld is a challenge to begin with. And now I'm faced with the challenge of pulling this face back into square as much as I can and re-welding this outer flange right here. Then I'm gonna resculpt this, smooth in these gouges right here as well on that radius, where you see where the bumpers kind of roll into this low part of the flange where it has this cavity. It has a pretty gnarly step right here and right here. And so I'm gonna take all this and just smooth all that out. What I call it is just manual 3D printing. So I'm gonna take filler metal that's a steel alloy, and I'm going to run welds on top of welds to build this flange up. And that'll have that room so I can have enough material and mass to resculpt this back into a nice shape. So that masking tape held those two pieces together so I can get it clamped in there and fixtured tightly. This is in there really snug and firm, so that's not gonna move anywhere, and that's gonna be fixtured straight, so there's not gonna be any possible way for that to distort or move as I weld this. And then after I weld it, I'll let it cool down before I pull it out, and that way the grain structure will all normalize back into its original position. So I've already brushed this with this little cut brush. So I've brushed it and cleaned all of the surface corrosion away. If this has been blasted, all of that media leaves a residue at the surface. So cleaning this out with a stainless wire brush removes all of that, and then I can get in and put in a perfectly clean weld. So I'm gonna clean out specifically down in the cavities of those letters so I can remove some of that oxide that I can see that's down in there. Just for an added step, to make sure there's no oily contamination or any burned off residue in there, I'm just going to wipe it all with acetone, and these are a lint-free polyester wiper. Before I get into it, I need to find a position that I can actually access all of this in a comfortable spot. I don't want to pour heat into this because that is what causes this level of distortion. So I want to be able to get into this weld and weld this all while it's warm and that grain structure is accepting the weld, because this oil hardened steel, it's not easy to weld. On the other side of this neck, the first time I welded it once, and I had two really deep pitted craters from the weld when I blended it back off. And so I had to re-weld it 2 more times before I could get those to actually release the contamination from inside the steel and be able to seal it all up and have it fuse back together. And so it's just a little bit of trial and error sometimes. Now I have a brand new tungsten here with a really nice uniform grind. It's best case scenario. So this is the same filler I welded the other side of the neck, and you can see that it has an oxide burn right there. I'm just gonna clip it off. And if I start welding, I will push that directly into the weld and introduce it where it's not what I'm going for. It's actually welded really stable. I was able to keep this extremely flat, and luckily this was not undercutting or gouging out at all. So I want to straighten this back up. Pretty close. And that's it right there. So now I'm gonna switch to the ceramic belt. It's really close. I'm gonna grab the hand files. A flat file that has the little radius edges on it. I really like these files. They're so small and they have a slight amount of flex. You really do feel every little groove and striation with these. These just give you so much feedback and control. This file's kind of half rounded. It's like a flattened football shape. Quick mount abrasive, kind of a medium soft. And now I'm moving to the super soft one to see how smooth I can really get this. So here's the neck so far. You can see that it's a lot straighter now. And all of the stamping has been removed and polished out on both the face side and the back side of the plumber's neck. So it's warped across the face, and I'm gonna try to pull it back.